having to follow orders when the orders were so demonic.
Yes, absolutely.
So he gets called back again. This time it's from the President of the United States.
A direct attack on an American ship, 34 sailors dead, 171 injured, and yet the U.S. government's response? Silence. For decades, the USS Liberty attack has been erased from history books. The survivors were threatened, the investigation was buried, and the truth was locked away. But why? What was so dangerous about this incident that even the President of the United States refused to speak about it? Candace Owens isn't afraid to ask the hard questions, and after uncovering the truth, she isn't just talking about it. She's making sure the world hears it. Because once you know what happened on June 8, 1967, you'll start questioning everything. On a clear summer day in the middle of the Six-Day War, the USS Liberty sailed in international waters, a neutral vessel with no weapons capable of serious combat. The ship's role? Surveillance. It was there to observe, not to engage. But then, out of nowhere, Israeli jets launched a relentless assault. Candace Owens describes it as one of the most shocking betrayals in military history, an attack not from an enemy nation, but from a U.S. ally. And this was no random act of war. Survivors remember it all too well. Before the attack, Israeli reconnaissance planes had been flying overhead for hours, visibly identifying the USS Liberty as an American vessel. Its massive radio antennas and U.S. flag made it unmistakable. Yet minutes later, missiles, rockets, and machine gun fire rained down on the ship. The crew's attempts to call for help? Jammed. The ship's lifeboats targeted and destroyed. And then, the torpedoes. One ripped into the hull, killing dozens instantly. By the time the attack was over, 34 American sailors were dead, 171 were wounded, and the ship was left barely afloat. The official explanation? A mistake. But Candace Owens and the survivors don't buy it. Because what happened next is what turned this attack into something far more disturbing. The U.S. government didn't seek justice. They covered it up. Admiral Isaac Kidd allegedly gathered the survivors and gave them a direct order: forget what you saw. If you speak about this, you will be court-martialed, or worse. Owens points out that within just 7 days, the U.S. Navy wrapped up its so-called investigation without interviewing a single Israeli pilot and without presenting the overwhelming evidence from the surviving crew. If this was just an accident, why was the U.S. government so desperate to bury it? A tragic miscalculation or something far more sinister? Candace Owens doesn't believe in coincidences. And the more she looked into the USS Liberty attack, the clearer it became. This wasn't a mistake. It was a setup. One of the most chilling claims comes from survivor Philip Turney, who says this attack was planned a full year in advance.
They didn't talk to us, and we didn't talk to them. We weren't allowed to.
Okay.
And so it was two different crews. And we figured it out pretty quick what was going on, but yeah, it was so secret. I mean, everything was secret, very, very secret.
And the evidence, undeniable. The USS Valdez, another U.S. intelligence ship, was suddenly removed from the region right before the attack. Owens asks the obvious question: why was the Liberty left defenseless in hostile waters? Who ordered this?
Now you get these emergency orders and you have no idea where you're going. Are they giving you any information, or they're just saying it's an emergency, everybody get back in?
Everybody get back in, and we headed to Rota, Spain. We picked up 3 Marines. We head into the Mediterranean, and to go through the Rock of Gibraltar and all that. And all the ships were going this way, going the other way, and we were the only one going that way.
Okay. And still nobody's informing you about the Six-Day War?
We did find out that we were going into a war zone.
Okay. And what information, if any, did they give you?
None.
None. You're just going into a war zone. Prepare for anything?
No, we were prepared.
Survivors claim the goal was simple: sink the ship, blame Egypt, drag the U.S. into war. But then comes the most damning revelation: intercepted Israeli communications. Israeli pilots identified the ship as American before opening fire. They knew. Yet, according to reports, they were ordered to proceed anyway. Then came the moment that made Owens's blood run cold. The U.S. military responded. Jets from the 6th Fleet were sent to rescue the USS Liberty. But before they could arrive, they were ordered to stand down. And the order, it allegedly came from President Lyndon B. Johnson himself. His reported words, "I don't care about a few dead sailors. I will not embarrass my ally, Israel."
And then LBJ gets on the phone, and his exact words were, "I don't give a GD if all those sailors die. I'm not going to embarrass my ally, Israel," like I said in the letter. Now, how did he know that if we didn't know it? Who was attacking us?
Candace Owens does not hold back in calling this what it is, treason. Because this wasn't just about an American ship being attacked. It was about who really controlled American foreign policy. And if the USS Liberty had gone down, the Soviet Union was watching. Owens explains that a Soviet submarine had been tracking the incident and was ready to retaliate.
There was a submarine. The Russians were there too. If our ship goes down, Israel was going to get nuked by Russia. And that's a fact. It's on tape by the people that were there.
If the Liberty had sunk, World War III could have begun that very day. And yet, the U.S. government did nothing. Lyndon B. Johnson's unwavering loyalty to Israel didn't start with the USS Liberty attack. Candace Owens exposes his deep Zionist ties, which stretch long before he ever entered the White House. And who stood in his way? John F. Kennedy. JFK fought to limit Israel's nuclear ambitions. He pushed back against AIPAC before it became the most powerful foreign lobby in Washington. But when JFK was assassinated, everything changed. Owens raises the question the mainstream media refuses to ask. Did Israel have a role in JFK's death? And more importantly, why are the JFK assassination files still classified? The same way the full USS Liberty report remains locked away. If there's nothing to hide, why hide it? Owens doesn't just blame politicians, she calls out the media. She points out how mainstream outlets are more than happy to expose government corruption, but only when it serves their agenda. But when it comes to Israel, silence. Survivors of the USS Liberty attack have spent decades trying to tell their story. Congress won't listen, the media won't report it, and those who try, they're labeled conspiracy theorists and anti-Semites. Owens has a name for this tactic, shutting down dissent. But she refuses to be silenced, because the one thing they didn't expect is that Americans are finally waking up. Owens isn't just exposing the truth, she's taking action. She announces a $40,000 annual donation to the USS Liberty Veterans Association.
That personally, my family will donate $40,000 every year to your organization. And I'm asking if every single person who is watching this right now, and this will be in the millions, if every single person gives $1, just $1, we can keep their organization going. We can give them what they need to speak about this, and we can show them that despite the fact that we may all be existing under a government that is occupied, this is not who we are.
Ensuring that the survivors' fight for justice continues. And then she goes on the offensive. She calls out Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, and every so-called conservative who refuses to acknowledge the USS Liberty attack.
Can I explain the USS Liberty incident? Sure. The USS Liberty incident is very frequently used by anti-Semites to suggest that Israel deliberately targets American ships and then pays no penalty. So both American naval records and Israeli Air Force records suggest that there was a case of mistaken identity wherein USS Liberty was in the Mediterranean in a place they were not supposed to be. Israel thought that it was an Egyptian ship and shot it. That's the actual full story. Now, there are a bunch of conspiracy theories on actually both sides of this. There's a conspiracy theory on the American side that suggests that Israel, for no reason that can be discerned, decided to shoot up an American ship to accomplish no one really can explain what. And then on the other side, there is a theory that I have not seen a lot of support for, that the USS Liberty was being used as a transmission vessel to send Israeli military locations to the Egyptians during the '67 war, and Israel knew that and shot it. Again, I think the evidence is lacking on both of those things. And there have been multiple naval investigations of the USS Liberty incident. They all come down on the same side, which is that this is a mistaken case of allied, quote-unquote, friendly fire.
Debate the survivors, she demands. If you think this is a conspiracy, face them and prove it. Silence. And then comes the line that sends shockwaves across social media. God saved us from God's chosen people. The internet explodes. But then, just when it seems like she's done, Owens drops her final bombshell. She hints at running for president, because this is bigger than one attack. It's about who really controls America. And just like that, the video ends.
I have never, ever had an inkling to run for president of the United States, despite people insisting on it. But hearing what happened to you, if I ever do run, it will be to honor you guys in the way that you should be honored, and to give the middle finger right back
I hope you do,
to the government.
No outro, no fade out. Just one final question. If your government can cover this up, what else have they lied about?